making beats where good times flow. Making beats you'll never wanna blink. Making beats you'll never wanna blink.
We are here with the Making Beans podcast, where my grandfather would call and ask, "What's cooking?" I'd say we're making beans. I'm your host, Chef John Wayne. Let's get cooking. From Padawon to private chef, let's welcome Jesse, the big cat, Almodovar.
Yeah.
What's cooking, Jesse?
What's
The
up,
big
Chef? How are
cat.
you?
You prefer Big Cat or Jesse or?
You know, since the moment you gave me the nickname, I've tried to use it. I try to use it whoever would say it. You're the only person in my life to ever give me a nickname, and I let it ride, man. It's a good one.
Nice, very nice. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show today. I think we're gonna have a little bit of fun and just a good conversation about hospitality, kind of at large. But just want to get a little bit about your journey and your perspective as becoming a chef.
Yeah, thank you first for having me. I appreciate that. You're an integral part of that story. I feel our time together was that tipping point. After we left each other, that's when I truly consider myself a chef. So thank you for that.
No, you're very welcome.
Yeah,
very, very welcome. So your journey, take us like to the beginning.
Sure. Yeah, in the beginning, there was P.F. Chang's. That was my humble.
P.F. Chang's.
That's correct. Yeah, P.F. Chang's.
You're taking me back because I it's been a while, so I might not remember all this.
That's right. Yeah, no, of course. And it's so funny. I mean, because while all that was happening, I mean, you were 6 blocks away or whatever it was, at Sunda and everything. I'd imagine around that time, it had to be real close, I think. So yeah, P.F. Chang's. It was my first gig. Got introduced me to knife cuts and the excitement of the cooking line. I was kind of a lost youth at that time. College didn't really work out for me, or I didn't work out for it, and the kitchen found me. Worked my way through that kitchen, and it was really just off to the races. Thereafter, after I left P.F. Chang's, I tried to just find my weaknesses in my craft, which when you're that green, you're starting, no culinary school, nothing like that. The holes are apparent, so I tried to quickly fill those holes to make myself as round of a student as I could, because I know I'd be going into these restaurants green, and I'd found my weaknesses and pursued them. So I think shortly thereafter, P.F. Chang's, I attacked Curry. There was a company that I think since gone under. It's in Chicago. It's called Curried. It was a fast casual, Indian spot that did some favorites from the Indian culture. Lots of, it was curry focused. Like that was that kind of thing. They did biryani and
bowls.
Yeah, bowls, exactly that. Yeah, and they tried to do some
build your own type thing. Or
yeah, mac and cheeses. They tried to fit in with the market at the time,
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big hole. I'm Puerto Rican and Irish Italian, like by
it's a blend.
Yeah. So I felt I didn't have much exposure to Indian food, and I loved food so much. It was an easy trip to kind of learn that. It was a cool concept too. That's probably the first time I just saw maybe the culinary journey that can go in kind of a different way. I worked at a commissary, which is a little bit different than a true, restaurant kitchen. We were supplying two brick and mortar restaurants with all of the food, and we were cooking it out of there. So I was able to prepare the entire menu, and I got some volume under my belt. Nice. Just under my second, stint into the culinary world. We're talking about like a year and a half, at that time.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, shortly after that, that's kind of like when I feel I leveled up. I had maybe done a summer at like the Columbia Yacht Club in Chicago, in between basically DuSable and Monroe Harbors, just north of the Chicago Yacht Club. And that was cool because I was cooking on a boat. It was stationary, the weight there. And that's where I kind of like started to elevate my food a little bit more. You know, a yacht club, the clientele is going to want, you know, just a finer food, you know, than I had experience, you know, in my career. But at the same time, it was, we've all been in these kitchens where they're just, you're almost surviving to get through each service. You know, the volume, the requirements that are asked of you during service, you're really just getting through, you know, and the volume and the small windows of time, like summer months and things like this, events would just be happening every day, and it'd just be a constant stop. Feels like you're in the restaurant, you know, 20 hours a day.
It goes by so fast. Yeah.
Yeah. And
your day just disappears. Yeah.
Yeah. I also felt there was just like, I saw that, okay, if we're going to take food to this next level, there's got to be more levels yet. It's like the standard spiral staircase. You know, I'm still ascending. I can't see the top, but I know there's still room to grow, you know. At that point, I met someone that was part of the Boca group. I then like really cut my teeth, and I feel like set the tone for the you know, my career up until this point even. And I had worked at Belena for about 9 months to a year. And we're talking like maybe 2013 or so, and about 2 years into my journey. About 6 months into their opening, and that just was just a game changer to me. You know, we were recognized for a bib gourmand when I was there, and we all had intentions of, you know, carrying ourselves and intending ourselves to get that Michelin star. You know, that was like a really shocking moment to me, because I was south of 3 years with no formal education, and here I find myself in a restaurant who's chasing a star. Like, I barely understood what a star meant, let alone, you know, but I felt the brevity of it all. You know, I remember being at our Christmas party that year and just being moved to tears because I was of what I poured into my career and where I found myself. You know, I saw all of a sudden I'm on this spiral staircase, and now I'm in a landing, and I just, you have this beautiful view of like what it is. And unfortunately, you know, the work's not done. You just have to put your head down and keep going. You know, I felt that I had reached maybe my potential there. I think there was a little bit of a burnout as well. And with my previous experience working at the commissary, I knew that there were different avenues to pursue in the culinary field. And that led me to Wolfgang Puck Catering. And I did that at the University of Chicago Bleacher Center, right on the river, you know, beautiful facility, you know, tons of staff and labor ability. We did huge events there, and we outsourced some of our labor to like things like the MCU and the Spiritus Institute. These were satellite kitchens of Wolfgang Puck in Chicago, you know, after the Spago days, basically. And, you know, all of my chefs were products of that whole Spago movement, I feel, in the 80s, you know.
A lot of volume.
Yeah, tons of volume, you know, and I think that's, you know, the commissary showed me a little bit of volume, but nothing like this, you know, parties of 300, parties of 1,000. I mean, and you're really just a cog at this point. I'm still a cook, you know, and you're doing your I was working salads for the catering, and I'd do past apps and, you know, jump in to get some hours, you know, just doing prep work, knife work and all of that. But doing it at that volume and trying to maintain integrity was also another crucial, you know, training point for me. I feel I learned a lot doing that. And so even with that, like, wonderful situation, just felt I kind of like, you know, reached my potential there. In fact, there was my goal when I was there, I wanted to do the Oscars, you know, and I felt like there was some red tape and some like political stuff like in the building I was at, and I was like, I'm never gonna do that. I'm also not gonna burn. You know, we'll talk about like a general feeling of my career. I feel like I'm playing from behind, especially not being formally educated. And you can, I mean, you know, like when it comes down to it, like, no, I'm not behind. You know, I'm right there with everyone else. But it was an internal feeling and a pressure, and I was like, I don't have time to do this. Like, I feel I can do something else, you know. And that's really when we found each other. We crossed paths at the Chop Shop in Chicago. Shout out to Mario and them over there.
Oh yeah.
And it was such a cool opportunity, to work in a venue, to kind of mix that real Chicago like deli restaurant and venue. I mean, it's just such a unique opportunity in the heart of Wicker Park. Like all of that was real cool, but lots of these movements were like, okay, yes, I want to continue my career, but I also need a job. I need more money. I think each step of the way, you're like, this is not cutting it too. And you guys were offering like, more than I was making everywhere else. Also with the catering, sometimes it can be on and off, and I needed something a little bit more steady,
Right.
And upon meeting you, it still sticks out to me to this day, where I kind of speak to myself, and that's something I'll talk to about in this as well. Is like, I feel like in Mario Kart, you're chasing your best lap around the track. You're chasing a ghost, right? And you are very much a ghost in my mind. It's almost like this voice that can speak to me and guide me, like a Yoda, like an Obi-Wan Kenobi, hence the Padawon, right?
Well, that mentor.
Exactly. There you go. Yeah.
That mentor, that wisdom. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I remember coming to you and you're just like, so, I have a junior sous chef and I have a line cook. Which one do you want? Because I was all over the place, not really confident in myself. I had, a good amount of experience, and I, to this day, I still believe like I could have done the junior sous chef, and I think I ended up selling myself short. However, with our time together, I learned how to cook eggs, and really learned
eggs are important.
Own a line and crush it. And that was my tasting. He had me do an omelet for you, and I still think back on the omelet. I still think back how I thought it was great, and then like day one training, the omelets were just significantly better. Still use that method. Later on in my career, I learned like a kind of a variation of that. Kind of like collected a little higher heat and getting a good amount of eggs, but then like kind of collecting these curds and moving them back and forth, where yours was a little bit more high heat and giving the service, mess, flip, let it set, and maybe we go salamander. It depends on what we're doing.
Yeah.
And
at the end of the day, it's control and technique, and
absolutely,
depending on what concept or style that you want to do. There's so many different variations of making omelets or eggs. Not necessarily a right or wrong way, but it also can be a nightmare.
100%. Yeah.
At the same time. But yeah, no, I remember you. I mean, you were like the tour knot. I'm like, hey, just
exactly.
tour knot, and just be everywhere that I need you, and absorb everything, learn everything, and just do. That's it.
Yeah.
Just do.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was it. And you did it. So
yeah, thank you.
That's awesome.
It was such a fun time. I still think about our rum dinner that we did. It was just us. Service was going on. The boys had that. And just me and you did that thing. I feel like we really bonded over that. A handful of events. I think we did so many. That one in particular really stuck.
Was that Templeton?
Rum. The Boatrum rum.
Oh, Boatron. Yeah, Boatron.
Yeah.
Boatron.
I mean, to this day, like, the kaffir lime leaf, the dehydrated lime, those charred prawns, like that whole thing, dude. That menu was sick. I come across those photos and I'm just like, that's cool. Yeah.
A lot of fun. I love doing pairings, and it's definitely important as more you grow, pairings, and it's a testament to your palate.
Yeah.
How you compare things. And if you look back to, early on to, maybe where you start to where you get to further on in your career, like it just comes to you so much more easier. I think palate is so important.
That's reps too. You know what I mean? Like, I think anyone who's pursuing this kind of has that palate to begin with, some level of it. It's really training that, like your senses, much how we condition our hands to handle these pots and pans. We can kind of condition our palate to, like, I feel like as I've grown, maybe in my imagination would be like a story or this or that in my mind, and my imagination more so now is like, I wonder how these two things will taste together. I wonder how these
Right.
6 things will taste and play with each other. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, it's a lot of experimentation at the end of the day, and
Mhm.
your palate doesn't necessarily lie either. When you learn like wine tasting,
Yeah.
it's really the first thing that comes to mind. Just say it. Oh, it tastes like cherries or whatever it might be, and
Yeah.
you're onto something. But I also think the more you're exposed to ingredients, the broader your palate will become.
Mhm.
Um, so if you're not exposed to certain things, then you might not have that experience, because it also relates to taste, relates to memory as well. So and
Agreed.
there's
Yeah.
there's a nostalgia to that as well, that I find very important in how food connects to people.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, it's
I think
all intertwined.
we all try to march to that beat and pull someone's nostalgia strings. You know what I mean? That those are the best compliments I've gotten. Like, this tastes like my grandma.
Right.
Maybe their grandma's not here anymore. You're literally you're being an alchemist, man. You're a genie. You're bringing someone back to even genies can't do that. Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So after you worked with me for a little bit,
Yeah.
so where did you go from there? I know, you went into, is that when you started going a little bit more into the private chef, and you worked with athletes and sports teams, which
Yeah.
I'm very interested in learning about the different facets of, you don't have to just work in a restaurant as a chef. There's so many other avenues, and I'm a little bit intrigued by this.
Sure. Yeah. So I think, yeah, it's kind of underlying theme, and as we talked about with palettes, it's really only this perspective that I have currently that allows me to look back and kind of lay it out like this. But yeah, so after you, again, I think I made, it was like a financial move. In fact, well, story time here. We told each other we were leaving the same day. You were leaving on you were leaving on your next venture, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was Amalfi Coast. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that was when I was consulting and popped over to Italy to open sushi bars. Yeah.
I was at even more story time. I was in the middle of like trying to, and that's why I think I made the financial move. I was trying to save up to buy a ring to ask my wife to marry me.
That's right. Yeah.
Most of my issues that I'd be working on during, as we're all getting to know each other, talking about our life, I'm talking about this or that. I remember we're absolutely getting railed during brunch. And you're just like, Big Cat, you want to go to the Amalfi Coast with me? And I was like angry and dismissive. I was like, no, dude, what are you talking about? I got to get this food up. And then, yeah, sure. I don't know the timing of it all. We sat down and I was like, hey man, I'm leaving. I think you were literally like, fuck. I was moving up. Ari was moving up. We were all like, Emily was moving up. We were all
Yep.
making moves. And then I was leaving. And you're like, well, I am too. Like, and we had this moment, So yeah, leaving you, I found this awesome company at the time called Kitch Fix. To this day, they're still a leader in sports nutrition. So at
Okay.
the time, they were an online meal delivery service company. So I had some catering under my belt.
Okay.
I was also looking for a little bit more money and just a different look at the culinary field. So this had, like daytime work opportunity, which folks, always kind of are looking for, just sometimes it's hard to like maintain a pseudo traditional life, like, waking up at 9, getting to work at 10:30, 11, and then getting out at 1. Like that really lends itself to like a specific type of lifestyle, and it could be a slippery slope for some folks. And I've been grateful to be able to navigate my way through that. But yeah, at Kitch Fix, they were doing paleo food, like modified paleo food.
Mhm.
And that was their offering for folks. The owner and CEO started as a private chef, and he was cooking for people with cancer, and he was taking out, inflammatory things. So like things like soy, things like milk, sugar, gluten, all of these things that are finding at the time kind of causing inflammation in the body, especially with people with immune disorders, autoimmune diseases, things like that. they're constantly dealing with inflammation throughout the body. So focusing on whole foods, kind of following this paleo diet, things that our ancestors, when they were hunter gatherers, kind of eating. Good grass-fed proteins, good fats, nuts, seeds, sticking away from grains or anything agricultural, but like some vegetable, most vegetables that grow in the ground. I think potatoes are kind of a weird, thing, but tubers are cool, I think. But I'm no nutrition or dietitian, but these are all things that we kind of peppered into the menu. And something we talked about earlier, playing towards nostalgia, like our whole approach there was to make chef driven meals for people who are trying to eat healthy, so we do sloppy joes, we do chili, we do nachos, but we just rethink it. The nachos was like a flaxseed thing that we made in house. We made like flaxseed and chia seed pizza crust. Now they don't scratch the pizza itch, but like if your brain needs to look at a piece of pizza before you eat it, it's probably some sweet potato kind of puree on it, but it scratched the itch to a degree. There's there are really like two spectrums of it. Like, and I find this in my own life. Either I'm eating for flavor and taste and for experience, or I'm eating for health. And I think those are the two hats you have to wear as a chef and a human, like, and kind of watch yourself to not toe either side of that line too much, more so on the gluttonous side. But back to kind of the story here, I guess. So Kitch Fix had opportunity. I was able to. I was hired in as their protein cook. So hundreds of pounds of protein a week: chicken, beef, pork, different cuts and things like that. So I was kind of exposing myself to that, and that's how I was attacking it. I try to find the value in all the jobs that I needed to just support myself. And I joined their team in 2015. And that's when it was like a young, hot Cubs team. 2015 Cubs lost to the Mets, I believe, in the first round. Just a spicy team, young, undeveloped guys. And it just felt like something was there. I was promised that, like, hey, next year we'll get you in there. But, I had joined the team a little bit too late. It was in the middle of the season. So, flash forward a year, we're heading into the 2016 season. And I'm all set and ready to be a cook in the clubhouse. I get to have FaceTime with these guys, these athletes. And it was just awesome. I mean, it was a dream come true. It felt like a culmination of a lot of hard work and, kind of childhood. Yeah, I feel like you're – guess something to say or no?
Right. No, I'm listening to you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I felt like it was just a dream come true. Manny Ramirez, like, giving me a hug. I got to.
Oh, nice.
I had at the time.
So that's your team? That's your Chicago team?
What was that? Oh,
Is that your Chicago team?
Not to mention that, the Cubs.
Not Sox.
Not the Sox. No.
Not the Sox. Right.
I am a double dipper. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it's Chicago, baby. Like when I'm not. Did I blow off biology homework to watch the Sox win in 2005? Yeah, I did.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Right. Like, why not? But yeah, I'll rib a Sox fan any day of the week. You know what I mean? Go Cubs, go. But yeah, I mean, that was so cool. That was such a phenomenal experience. We had opportunity to cater for some of the boys too, some pretty big names. So that was just awesome. But in the midst of all of this, no matter how grateful I was for that, there was kind of a mass exodus of the executive level chefs there. The executive chef left, the executive sous chef left, and I was left with nothing but opportunity, And unfortunately, it cost me my day-to-day exposure to these players and kind of being in the clubhouse. But I had an opportunity to run a 5,000 square foot facility with like 30 employees producing 5,000 meals a week. And I would be solely in charge of that, operating an executive sous chef level. Up until this point, I hadn't had even a sous chef position, so it was the Tournat was probably like the highest I got in the brigade, and then just work took over. Are you a guy that could do the job? Cool. And then it's kind of been that since, and so that was a great opportunity. So I was doing our online meal delivery service, running that kitchen, and then kind of supplying Wrigley Field with like some supplementary items, I don't mean to ruin the ending, but the Cubs won the World Series that year, and we were a part of it,
Nice.
and kind of paid off, that was a really phenomenal opportunity. 108 years, didn't win, and the 1 year I worked for them, they won. So is
That's
that
cool. Yeah, really good experience. to be
my
part of. Yeah.
doing? I don't know, maybe. But no, I mean, those guys really do work so hard, and I think the average person, thinks they get paid too much, this or that, but I've seen them sacrifice. I mean, on a human level, to be exposed to the public in that capacity, I mean, go get it. If we got paid for being chefs like that, we'd take it. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's, I feel with that exposure too, I drew a lot of comparisons with the whole sacrifice and training of it all. We sacrifice so much for what we love in food, just much like they do, traveling 200 days a year, whatever it may be, all in the pursuit of their dreams. So I found, I guess, a new level of respect to that. How the sausage is being made, so to speak. You know what I mean? I saw the interworkings of all behind the scenes. So that was phenomenal. And then just kind of being in that realm of sports nutrition, that's kind of like what led me into becoming a private chef. Much like I said earlier in my career, whether it be a character trait or divine intervention, I'll find my limits with a spot, and then I got to keep it moving on to the next thing. Part of it in the earlier career was, like I had said, feeling like I was playing from behind. And since then, it's just kind of felt like, all right, well, this is an incredible opportunity. Like, let's see this through, So I had an opportunity to work with, at the time, a Chicago Bulls player. And that Chicago Bulls player, then, liked my work. I was also kind of doing a modified paleo diet for him. He had some autoimmune disorders as well. Helped him with his inflammation, and help him put on a good, significant amount of weight. Help him put 30 pounds on in the year while he was training. So, and he was a big guy, so he's like a 4 or 5 kind of guy, or like a 3, like a stretch 4, really. So, and like kind of undersized as far as like bulk goes. So he put a significant amount of weight. And again, the guy did all the work, all of this, just supplied the food, But it was cool to see where my skill set could take me,
Oh, it's really cool. Really good experience there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, nutrition is definitely, so important for being an athlete, nutrition and yeah. And having that experience, I'm sure was a lot of fun too. But gave you a good challenge, because it's definitely outside of the norm of working, say, in a restaurant.
Yeah, I was thinking about this in preparation to this. Those tables that are just like, can we have, they're just all the edits that come in. That's what sometimes being a private chef can be like. It's almost 10 days in a row of the difficult table. You know what I mean? It can be like that for sure, because these folks are paying you top dollar, and it's probably the most intimate form of service that I found. You're setting tables, you're serving, you're cleaning up, you're
and you're doing you're doing more of the work too. You're actually, like you said, you're setting the tables, you're doing it. You don't have, it's not like you have a catering team who's doing those things for you. You're kind of doing it all around, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Not to mention sourcing the ingredients and shopping. This type of cooking, I mean, it was exclusively organic food. So, I remember one time buying some oranges, and he was just like, hey, these are not organic, please don't buy them. And I was like shocked. I'm like in the middle of cooking, my stomach, because there's also this underlying feeling, again, if it's like personal characteristics or not, it just feels like it can go away in a heartbeat, and you just want to do a good job. You want to, be just as good as you feel this position is, And I was like, oh, I was so sure, and then like, I think he had left, and then I like searched again, because I don't know if folks know that there's a whole, if the number starts with a 9 or a 3, that signifies that it's a organically grown vegetable or
like
fruit.
Like on the label, like a code?
Yeah,
A 9 or a 3 it means
is
that
organic.
it's organic. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, and I think it's
That's really
4
cool.
or a 6, definitely 4, maybe a 6. That's conventional.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's really
So even when we're doing
cool
a
bit of
case,
info.
yeah, no, for sure, dude. I'm so happy I gave you that. I was telling my wife today, I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna give this guy. This guy's an encyclopedia. You know what I mean? So yeah, dude, yeah.
There's a lot of stuff out there. We're always learning, my friend.
It's nuts. Yeah, absolutely. Student first, man. That's certainly something you taught me.
But
But
like
yes,
talking about like the athletes and the work that you put into it, being
yeah,
a private chef, definitely in the sector, I pulled some numbers, and
yeah,
it's 51% above the national average for private chefs, just
yeah,
being that in the athletics field. So that's
yeah,
a very interesting tidbit there. Um, but like you're doing a lot more of the work, but all the little nuances that you have to deal with, especially to dietetics. I mean,
mhm.
it's a whole other realm. Yeah, really cool stuff.
Yeah. It was definitely a team setting. There was definitely a nutritionist involved, and that was kind of cool. She kind of set the direction, and then
So
I
you
just
worked with the nutritionist as well,
yeah. So it was my job then to be creative for one, and then
right?
two, color within the lines. If we had to get some saturated fats out of the menu. Yeah. Oh, we also did a weekly nut. So like all milk, quote unquote, was cashew one week,
Mm,
almond the next, pumpkin the following, like raw or excuse me, young coconut flesh milk like the third week, fourth week or whatever.
mhm,
And then you'd also cater your menu to those things. Like I mean, cashews, albeit like super expensive. I mean, I make a cashew mel. You know what I mean? That was my
mhm.
mother's sauce for like everything. It's a wonderful thickener. It adds some sweetness and nuttiness to everything, and I felt like it could do anything a bechamel or a roux can do as far
Mm,
as viscosity goes. And it was so versatile. Almonds at times can be gritty and just has like be a straining system in play, and
mm,
then those young coconut too can really like bring some nice viscosity to things because you could puree them so smooth. I did
right.
these. Um, let's see, Tropical Traditions is an online company that's
Mm,
just like head over heels over everything else. I mean, they have eggs, coconut products, organic items. They're an awesome vendor that I used a lot for them,
mm,
and their young coconut was super awesome to use. I did like almond joy basically. Did like a puree of sweetened um, coconut puree, and then did some flakes in there. Set like a toasted almond right in the middle. Did some chocolate. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was a good experience. Yeah, he ended up getting traded, so like I kind of experienced all of that. I lived in New Orleans for 6 months.
So you follow him.
Yeah, yeah.
So
They
now
actually,
you're like, are you like living in like a room with him, or you're kind of like you find your own place?
yeah. I think it depends on the situation. Oh, and even kind of going back to your numbers about 51% over the market of other private chefs. I think there's much like other things in the culinary field. You can pursue it in a couple different ways, and I think that the stakes when you're dealing with ultra high net worth individuals like basketball players or movie executives or even business executives, like time is so incredibly valuable to them.
Hmm.
So there is no time to be answering questions. I mean, there's
Oh
part
yeah.
of it that's a little bit of magic. You know what I mean?
Well, they're gonna have a rigorous schedule.
Yeah,
Very.
and you need to maintain
Yeah.
that on your end. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
so the pressure's real high. So I think the money
Can't be
then needs
late.
to be there. That's almost like directly correlated. You know what I mean? The pressure, because it's on them too, right? Like they're also paid like that because they perform. And I think I took
Mhm.
that. That was the lesson out of it. Like, all right, you like if you perform, you get paid. You know what I mean? And that's
Right.
that's what. Yeah.
I mean, that
So
makes sense.
absolutely. Yeah.
No, no,
Um,
no, that's
So
cool.
yeah, going back to the move now. Sorry for that. I feel like I jumped over it. I just wanted to make sure that yeah, like the performance file or the money follows the performance, and that's
Okay.
all around. But yeah, I moved to New Orleans, and as I was speaking earlier about sourcing ingredients, that was so difficult in New Orleans. We really turned into tourists for the first time in a city we lived in. My wife and I were 30 at the time when we moved to Chicago. So like that was like we're getting ready to settle down and start like adult life. And then here we are moving. I felt here I go feeling again that I was like playing late. You know, I felt like I was leaving home too late now. Now I'm 30 years old, you know, as opposed to 18 or this or that. So I felt a little awkward there.
Never too late. Never too late.
Exactly my point. Yeah. I mean, now I understand this, but you know, in the moment. But so yeah, you know, New Orleans was awesome, and as we're tourists, we just heard about like yellow fever and mosquitoes. Like mosquitoes are out there, dude. Like they have invaded and have owned that area probably forever. So they spray everywhere, you know. So it's not like finding organic produce was easy. I found. I mean,
it was it was tougher then.
It's not
because they had to bring it in.
Yeah. So I mean, of course, like the options for Whole Foods was there, and Whole Foods down there was awesome. But there's also another layer to this. Like they're paying top dollar for me. They also want to pay top dollar for food, and they believe that even in the grocery stores, well, all right, well, this was in a diesel truck and it was like being unloaded and like there was diesel fumes around it or this or that, you know, other people are touching it. They wanted as much as possible farm direct sourced items, you know, and I actually did that. I mean, going back to Chicago was super easy. Green City Market. I just go to the farmer's market and get everything I needed, you know. I really wish I could give a shout out to that Iron Creek Farm, I believe, had some awesome organic produce that I always got from them, and they're great. But yeah, so sourcing stuff in New Orleans was real difficult, but I did it. You know, I mean, we were there for 6 months. It took me about a month and a half, but I did it. You know, I was really proud of myself. So New Orleans, if you're at all familiar, you have New Orleans proper, and then you have going west, Metairie. That's where we ended up living, Metairie, and then you fly into Kenner. So from Metairie, you can connect to Covington, Louisiana. If you know Theo Vaughn, the comedian, he's from Covington, Louisiana. Okay. And so like, you know, he kind of was getting super popular around the time. And it was so unique that I was like, I know where Covington, Louisiana is. He also talks about these escaped chimps from some like medical facility. We would drive past it all the time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, on the way to the farmer's market up there. And we found some farmers that did exclusively grass-fed poultry and beef, which was also hard to find. They do grass-fed, but then grain finished. That's like super common. Personally, I really like that. I like the, you know, call it gaminess or whatever, that grassiness that comes from grass-fed protein, but then the nutty, like nice fattiness that comes with grain finish. I personally really like that. Ethically, whatever, dude, I'm not going to fight about it. That's what I like. So yeah, I mean, I was super pumped about that. And you know, the success that he got there too was just awesome to be around. That's just a side product, you know. We were in a smaller market then, so I was able to go to a ton of games, you know. They went to the playoffs deep that year. They won the first round of the playoffs. Like, just to be around that was so cool. They ended up losing to Golden State, who was absolutely cooking at that time, and understandable. And then, you know, I think at that time, yeah. So then we went into the next year, and just the vibe in the locker room, everything like that was a little weird. And he ended up getting traded from New Orleans to Milwaukee. So then I followed him there. And you want to talk about what this industry constantly has moved my boundaries of what I think I'm capable of, what I think I can do, what I think is possible. I mean, at this point, I really do believe anything is possible because of like what I've done. And on the front end of anything difficult, I was like, there's no way I could do that. I'll do my best. And then here you go, you do it. And it's like, all right, well, I can move this needle a little bit further because more is possible. I mean, he got traded on February 8th. February 8th, I came home and I told my wife, hey, I know this sounds weird, but everything we own, we have to pack up tonight.
We're moving.
We're moving. She's like, when? I said Sunday morning we leave, you know? So, I mean, life's happening. I
That
mean,
fast.
picture that
Wow.
for
Yeah,
a
yeah.
second. That's gnarly. And then Saturday I went to his place, picked him up, dropped him off. He got in a private plane, and I packed up his place with the house cleaner at the time, who's still a friend. We still communicate, and we had, still to this day, we all talk about it. I had some leg of lamb that I had braised like the day before, and we did these lamb like barbacoa tacos because I had just
nice.
salsa frescas that I had just all the time, and I was really big into fermentation at this time, so I had some fermented salsa that was just ready. Like I was ready to use it. We blitzed it, and we all had this phenomenal meal, and then we just went our ways, you know?
Last meal, yeah.
Yeah, Sunday was the 10th. We drove through snowstorm 1,000 or 1,100 miles to Milwaukee, and I was cooking on Monday morning, you know?
Oh, wow. That's a quick transition, yeah.
In a snow, because we're in the middle of the season. I mean, he's playing then, you know? And I mean, I'm talking like 3 foot of snow, especially in Milwaukee. I mean, and I think I glazed over it, but we had our own place. I was a 1099 contracted employee. So like things like that, whether it be true or not, I mean, I didn't feel that important when it came to solving like, well, where's the chef going to live? Like that was 100% on me. Like I could not involve them with anything like this. So like I paid for my own place. And unfortunately I had to pay like, you know, New Orleans when I was in Milwaukee, even when I was in Milwaukee and I ended up moving to Michigan, had to pay there. So like, it was just tough. Like everything cost, you know, even the exposure to that, the experience, like I consider that my tuition for all of the things that I learned, you know. Went to Milwaukee. They had a really good run there. They were 5 games away from winning a World Series, you know, a basketball championship even there. They went to the Eastern Conference Finals, and I think they lost they went to the Eastern Conference Finals. That's when Toronto won that year, and Toronto beat them in like 6 or 7 games. They had to win one more game, then they were going, and it was just, your boy almost had another ring. You know, I was so excited, you know.
That would have been cool, yeah.
After that, you know, I really thought it would kind of snowball into something. I'd meet a basketball player here. He'd talk about my food over there. And then boom, I got 1, 2, 3, 4 clients. I'm bouncing around different cities. And just like, it never worked out that way. You know, I feel that they were so, the job was so demanding. And maybe I wasn't so savvy at the time, still kind of young and green, I guess, from a business standpoint. That maybe I didn't capital. I mean, I had no exposure. It's not like I had missed opportunities, you know, but I just never had opportunities, you know, after that. They were kind of guarded with me, didn't really want folks to know. And even when I was in locker room or in the like family area after games, you know, didn't really want to socialize with anyone because they were also foreign. So I was as respectful as possible. You know what I mean? I was so grateful as well. I just didn't want to like, you know, expose myself in a negative way. So, you know, that kind of went, the move was a bit much for us, not going to lie. It was something we weren't really interested in, and they were heading to Europe. So I think at that point we just kind of parted our ways. I stayed with that nutritionist, and that's what moved me to my current place here in Michigan. And I just essentially work for an ultra high net worth family, non-athletes with, you know, less than normal family. I mean, they're incredibly wealthy, but they had young kids. And so I, you know, did their diets and everything like that. Same kinds of things. They were, you know, people with autoimmune diseases. So same kind of meals. And then I really brought that chef's level approach and my chef palate to that healthy food, you know, but you know, I'm trying to paint a picture of what it'd be, but I mean, you know, like short ribs braised, you know, so that meat just shrinks all the way down. And I'd make like my version of like a gochujang with natto. Have you ever worked with natto before?
Yeah.
Like
those beans, Japanese natto, they're fermented beans.
Yeah.
Super healthy for you. Super healthy. I actually take pills.
Okay.
Periodically. So yeah, super healthy.
Yeah. So that was my first exposure with this, you know, and they were wanting to do something with it. And I didn't really know. So I kind of used that and some different chilies, and I got to a spot where I was like, this is really nice, you know? And then I'd combine that with cocoa amino glaze, and it'd be like a gochujang, like glazed rib, and I'd literally just put it in, and it'd be like so beautiful. They loved it. They went nuts. But you know, I do fried chicken sandwiches, Big Macs. I make all my bread. I have an awesome like paleo white sliced bread that's like almond and cassava flour. There, I was able to use cassava flour, and cassava flour is like, it's almost there, man. It can be gummy at times, but I think with the addition, if you get that ratio right with almond flour, it could be really be used like close to nothing. It doesn't get this gluten. You don't get a stretch or anything like that, but it's a nice product, you know. You can
it's good. Yeah, I've seen a few recipes using a lot more cassava flour, especially for gluten-free bread options.
Yeah, you know?
I'm encountering a lot of that right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So so long as you can get the chemical leavening right, and if you end up using some yeast, you know, if you're using like a low gluten flour that just to get something for the yeast to eat and get some rise out of it, that like it's a fine line because it can be gummy. You know, that's the only thing. You know.
Yeah, you got to be careful of that for sure.
But I even did. They had some staff in their home that were from Ghana, and they would do these cassava pies. It's it's like a log, right? You've seen this, or yeah?
Yeah, it almost makes me think of like cassava cake. You know, in the Philippines they do that.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, cassava, and it's baked.
So it looks almost like I can't believe it's escaping me.
Is it sweet?
No, it's savory.
It's not as sweet. It's more savory. Yeah, the Philippine version is sweet.
What's a fillet in phyllo dough? I can't think, or puff pastry.
Or the shredded
Wellington. Beef Wellington.
Oh, Wellingtons, yeah.
So
Wellingtons with puff pastry, yeah.
Not nearly as flaky, but like that's how it was, and it was filled with like a savory meat, you know, thing. And
like a ham pie.
Yeah, exactly. That.
Yeah.
I should have said that. 100%. And made those too. Made my fair share of ham pies. Worked with buckwheat flour, quinoa flour, and different variations. And I made it all myself. You know, buying the groats, buying the quinoa seed, and then just making my own flour too. And I learned a lot there. I think I did a lot of nice work. But that kind of taught me that I guess I just had to apply my boundaries a little bit more. The lines between work and home really blurred out, you know, and at this point I didn't feel that the pressure was on like an athlete and how I was feeling on a day-to-day being there. And I just thought it was just time to move, you know, and, unfortunately, I left that job like 2 weeks before COVID happened. So I didn't see that coming. But I
don't think anybody saw that coming.
Dude, who saw it coming, right? I was fortunate enough. I mean, just, you know, I had met a guy that I cooked for. I did a paleo vegan gyro for him. I made a nice pita out of cassava flour and egg white. That cooked like stovetop, almost like a pancake. And it had some, because of the egg was in there, and the cassava was like gummy, it was able to fold. That's the biggest thing, is like things can't fold. If and when they fold,
it was malleable enough to
exactly.
Form, yeah. Okay.
And thin enough, almost like a crepe, you know what I mean? But with the egg, it like had some bounce to it, you know, it was nice. And I actually worked with tempeh. It was a tempeh taste for the like gyro loaf then, you know, and I just seasoned it oregano, lemon, black pepper, cumin,
and grill it or sear it, or
exactly, and did that up. And I met him. That was actually the owner of Garden Fresh Salsa, if you're familiar with that.
I think it's somewhat
like in Costco and stuff like this.
Okay. Yeah.
It's like a Midwestern thing, you know. It's a company that this man built. He sold to Campbell's, and he made a ton of money on it. And then he had money in different communities, different projects. And then I took a look at like large scale food production, you know, and I was working as a production manager, left chefing. I actually joined them as a chef consultant, kind of following your footsteps a little bit. I
Or
saw
development, recipe development. It's
exactly,
definitely
yeah,
fun, and definitely another avenue that you can go that's not as traditional as,
yeah,
working in a restaurant or whatever. But
yeah.
so
So in
that's really
this,
cool.
I kind of saw just things built to scale, and I've yet to really pursue them. I feel like that kind of experience just on the back burner. I don't really know when that's going to come into play. Um,
Mhm.
but I really learned a lot about like yeah, just scaling recipes to thousands and thousands of portions. Worked with like some really cool machinery and a technology called HPP, which is high pressure pasteurization. So instead of
Mm.
heat to kill pathogens, you're using time and pressure. So
Pressure.
yeah, so
Okay.
things like orange juice, things like salsa, fresh refrigerated items with extremely long shelf lives without preservatives in it, chances are they're going through a HPP machine, high pressure
Really?
pasteurization. Yeah.
High pressure. What kind of pressure are we talking about?
So like 87,000 pounds of pressure. Yeah.
So
Insane.
it's like a vacuum chamber type thing.
It's actually a water chamber. So like items will be loaded in like picture like a torpedo kind of deal. And
Okay.
then this torpedo then goes in a cylinder. This cylinder then moves back, and then these two kind of like seals just go into it, and then just water. You remember like the American chopper and
Yeah.
anything that cuts like aluminum, a water jet basically.
Okay.
Same technology, just a closed system, not an open-ended system.
Hmm.
So the pressure is allowed to build up.
Wow.
During my time there, I lost my maintenance department, and I had to end up fixing these machines. So yeah, dude, it's nuts. On YouTube, I was able to find a water jet cutter, and it was the same idea of these ceramic pistons that are moving
Hmm.
back and forth, building up this pressure in the line and then going out. I realized it was just a closed pressure system. So like when I had to do that, that's what I used, and I just kind of transferred it over to this.
Wow.
Um, I did that, it's basically throughout COVID, and then in 2021, I found my way back into being a private chef. For just some wealthy folks. That ran its course. They got a divorce. So there's a kind of a theme. It's really just finding the right family.
Right.
In talking to you about this, how do you get started? There's no clear cut answer to that. I think much like any really really unique opportunities in life, networking is invaluable.
Oh, of
And
course.
being in the right spot at the right time. I've had difficulty in my career just sustaining it. Rolling into that next client. And I think the best place for me to be is to not be tied down to one family or one client. I'd really love to build to a point where I have multiple clients and like kind of different events. It keeps it interesting and fun, because I mean,
Right.
even with this, and I tell my clients, even when I meet them, I'm like, who wants to eat at the same restaurant every day? Even though I'm doing Chinese today and,
That's true. Yeah, it's true.
Mexican tomorrow and Turkish next week, it's still my palate. It's still how I'm going to present it. You know what I mean? You have your favorites you don't mind eating at 3 times a week, 4 times a week even,
Hmm.
but every day, and I've felt the pressure as the chef to like do magic. You know what I mean? Like there's also a performance aspect of it on it, and it's cool, but like even going back to our rum dinner, like we wouldn't want to do that every day. Like,
No.
it'd become tired, and
It
that's
becomes tired and boring, and just there's no challenge to it. Yeah.
yeah.
Because you want to continue to you want to continue to grow. But some people are good with that.
I
I think it
agree.
just depends on your situation. I would think I've seen a lot of private chef ads and things like that, and like, oh, we're here 6 months out of the year, and then we might go to our island getaway for a
Yeah.
couple months, and you have to be able to, like, you read the requirements, you have to be able to move around.
Hmm.
And I'm like, that's like the dream. Like, if you're like a bachelor, or you're just you're on your own type of position, but not having, not being married, not having a family or anything. I don't think that would work very well.
Yeah, agreed. I
You get to
feel, in
that point.
fact, um, very recently, I feel like I was not chosen for a couple opportunities this past summer based off of that. I think I had
Right.
a little bit too much baggage, I think, to bring.
For sure. I mean, I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
This a lot of this kind of reminds me of. You ever watch the show Below Deck?
I think I've seen it at times, yeah, but I wouldn't be able to
It's
reference.
I mean, it's yacht, yacht life, and they have the crew, and it's a perspective. It's a reality show, but it's
Uh-huh.
perspective of the crew, and they're serving these wealthy individuals around the world, whatever it might be. But I always kind of focused on the chef of the crew, and it's kind of fun and would be interesting. But if you're in a relationship or you have a family, it's definitely not something that would work that way. But it's a really cool show. If you haven't really watched it or anything, I definitely recommend watching it.
Sure, man. Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, cool. Is it fiction or it's a reality
No,
show?
it's a reality
Oh,
show,
wow. Yeah.
and the
Cool.
things that they actually deal with, and the service staff and the chef, and it's really cool.
Yeah.
My wife got me onto watching that, and it's a really cool series.
Yeah.
It's
Awesome, dude.
a lot of shenanigans that go on, but
Yeah.
it's a reality show too, but a really cool perspective
Hmm.
of another avenue, as you can be a chef.
Yeah. I think, yeah, it's definitely, yeah, it's definitely been a theme of my career. Just, I want to explore all the rooms, so to speak, of being a chef,
Oh yeah, there's so many rooms.
Yeah.
So like sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was briefly a part of the American Chef Federation too, and I had gone
Oh,
to
the ACF, yeah.
yeah, ACF. So I went there, and that was also an exposure to really see. You have large college food programs. You have
Mhm.
institutional food programs.
It's a
Even
big network, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So like that was cool to kind of see what chefs are doing too. At the time I had visited as a private chef. Right now I'm operating as like a larger food service entity. Right now, managing 6 kitchens, and have a staff around 65 people, and I'm the chef of the district. Just kind of
Right.
working on myself
School
around.
district, right?
That's correct. Yeah. And I, trying to elevate the food program there, with my eyes on like a food service director role,
Mhm. Oh, that's really cool. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I think that, food service director, operations director of operations, these are the next things I kind of want to get myself into, it allows me some stability in my day-to-day life. It allows me to provide for my family while I can still kind of pepper in these, private chef events and things like that. I'm working on getting a website up and running to, kind of get these packages out there. But not to
Nice.
mention,
What's the website could be?
yeah, so something along the lines of Chef Fuerte, which is my Instagram
Okay.
handle, or I might do a play on Big Cat. I'm really just getting it all together right now, but I feel that can bring in some extra income and still keep me relevant, keep my knife sharp, so to speak.
Yeah, well, it keeps your creative juices flowing too. You got to have, another type of outlet.
Yeah,
Like for me, started doing this podcast is just another little outlet and just have a little bit of fun.
yeah.
And then I get to have some conversations with, people I've known throughout the years and maintain those.
Yeah. I'm very excited for your podcast. I think your network is it's got to be massive. I hope you have, a ton to pull from. And I think, like I've said to you in private, I think that you're going to be perfect for this, man. Your
Oh, that's
palate
awesome.
for life, let alone food, is going to be a really great addition to the podcast world,
For sure.
Yeah.
So so what were some early challenges that you can point out, I guess, throughout you can encapsulate your career? What were some challenges that you really encountered that you felt you overcame?
Sure. So I think first and foremost, the kitchen, and this is a life skill. Kitchen taught me accountability. Um,
Mm.
I really would, not care if I called in that day or whatever. Like, I don't care. I don't feel good. I don't want to come in, and this was at my time when I was with the Boca group. All my peers hated me if and when I called off on a Friday or Saturday. I felt it. It felt so gross after I did it. Like whatever juice I got from the squeeze of not being there, like I paid the price for it. And like my mise en place not being right when I had to come in the next day, or my peers having to pick up my slack. So I feel I really over adjusted. I would come in 2 hours early. I'd help people with their I'd finish my prep as fast as possible, and then I finish the next person's prep, you know, and then I'd go on from there, try to learn this station, try to learn that station, you know, and just be there, you know. So I'd say that's the number one thing. Speak to it in so many different facets of my life, that accountability is huge for me, you know, and that's what it taught me. I feel that I kind of touched on it earlier, just your boundaries or whatever you think your capabilities are just, they're made up. You know, there's some kind of justification that you're telling yourself you can't do X, Y, or Z. Like, just try and relentlessly try. You know, I think, in fact, while we were together, refuse to fail. I still talk about that to this day. If you remember Emil, right? Emil, our food runner, he'd be coming back to eat. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you remember. So he'd be coming back. He'd be all flustered about dropping this, you know, on tables, this or that. And it's just like, hey, man, refuse. And we're just getting smoked. I got 6 pans going. I got a frittata in the oven raising, you know, got shit burning in the salamander. And it's just like, refuse to fail. In my hallway right now, I have, my wife got me when we're in New Orleans. It says, you know, Chef Fuerte up top, and it says refuse to fail.
Yeah.
You know,
that's good. It's good to have a little motto there.
Yeah.
To keep inspiring you, keep you in track. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not an option. And then, so I developed that there. And then a year and a half later, I'm producing, you know, I have no more labor, and I have 5,000 meals going out on Saturday, and I wanted to go hang out at the clubhouse today. So like, I had a couple, you know, by couple, like 20-hour days, so like that year, you know, because I had to spread myself thin, had to send my staff home. I had to then finish up prep, put everything away, get us set up for like, you know, the next day, administrative stuff, like printing out menus and all of this, only to make it to Wrigley, then to like do the same kind of stuff, probably just knife cuts, you know, and just to be around, you know. And that like really stuck with me, you know. That's what you flash forward. I mean, I have no mechanical degree. I was repairing lines that were carrying 85,000 pounds of pressure per square inch, you know, ripping through it. Like, I'm so proud of that, you know. So like, that refusal to failure, and like, that's how I got that going, you know.
Right.
Putting up, we also did like this. You know, I had talked about the machinery, these really cool machines. I mean, dude, packaged foods that we see at the grocery store, I saw that bare bones happening, you know, help develop the lines to increase productivity flow and all of this. And I'd be, you know, same kind of thing, no labor, or we're like kind of prep, but I'd be in these vats, like mixing the mac and cheese with these gloves that go to here, you know, and, you know, everyone saw that kind of work ethic. So I think, in tandem, you know, that refusal to fail, accountability, you know, all these things were like kind of early and middle on. And then I think towards this back end, just to know your worth, and to kind of, it's okay to set those boundaries. Just because you can do it doesn't mean you have to, you know.
Right.
And I think that I had to learn.
Or know your limits.
Yeah, you know, I had to learn that. I think that's where I kind of am, especially with these opportunities that didn't kind of bounce my way. I do know that I would have been taking on more than I probably could have handled, and not handled because I would have done it, but my family would have paid the price. You know what I mean? Right. And here I am thinking I'm making 3 times the amount of money that I ever thought, 3 times the amount of money I ever have made was, you know, what was on the table. I'm like, cha-ching, I'm bringing this to my family. I'm an awesome provider. But in reality, I'd be a ghost to them, you know, and I don't want to be a ghost to them. I don't want them chasing what dad would say. I want them to know what dad would say, you know. And I have 2 girls. You know, you got to be, you know, I want to be the man that I want to be to them. You know, I want to set that table for them, and just make sure that I crush. That's my kind of focus right now.
That's good.
Yeah.
No, that's really good. So I have to ask, you're
Yeah.
a chef.
Yeah.
So I have to go to that one. What's your favorite dish to cook?
Gun to my head, dude, I'm making pizza.
Pizza.
Yeah, pizza.
Pizza. And you actually opened a pizza.
Yeah, I
concept.
kind of glazed over that, not intentionally. Yeah, I'm coming from opening 2 restaurants in Sylvan Lake, Michigan. The owner of it and my buddy who developed the place, he couldn't decide if he wanted to do a pizzeria or a coastal seafood joint. So he split the restaurant in 2, had everything coming out of one centralized kitchen, had the one side with 102 rolling pins put on the wall, the cool
Cool.
the tin ceiling, like from, because he has some Chicago a story, a tenure in Chicago, cool tin ceiling, and then pennies on the bar, and then just
I love the penny on the bar.
Yeah, dude.
It's glazed.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah,
I like
so
that actually.
nice little finishes, and then a real nice let's see, I wish I remember the pizza name. It was like Al Forno something. I really wish I remembered. I'm so sorry. But yeah, so a wood fire pizza, gas assisted wood fire. We would get the wood going and then turn off the gas element, and then we'd rock it from there.
Just go through wood.
I had a pizza dough, like 65% hydration. I did AP, flour, and 00.
Yeah.
We did a 250-gram dough, opened it up, and then cooked it in there. Probably about a 5-minute cook, because we found that we run 500 to 550. It was like what was working with the pie,
Right. Yeah, you got to build the dough to the oven.
Exactly.
Every oven has its own personality.
Yeah, and this was brand new. There was a seasoning aspect of it all.
Nice.
So, yeah, pizza. I love it. I mean, I love the feel of the dough. I love rolling it out, and it was almost feel like I had to cross that bridge. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted to do. I felt like before. How can I claim to do pizza if I've never just done 10,000 doughs? You know what I mean?
Right.
I've done it now.
Pizza's fun. Pizza's fun.
Yeah. It's
definitely. So what are your toppings? Like
from Belena, it's a pizza that we made there. You open the dough, black pepper, fresh thyme, wood fire roasted mushroom medley, taleggio, fontina, cook, comes out, scallion, parmesan.
Okay.
Delicious, dude. Okay.
I love potato.
Oh yeah, cool.
I mean, potato pizza.
Yeah.
Just brush with olive oil, some rosemary, put some potato, maybe just a couple blotches of just some fresh mozz. That's it. No tomato, nothing.
Yeah. Not to mention like Sicilian style pies, like from D'Amato's. Okay. Like I grew up eating D'Amato pizza, so I like doing those pan pies like at home. My kids love my pizzas. But I guess, second to there, I think there's just this huge pasta revolution in Chicago, kind of like when I was coming up to, and I just really love a fresh pasta.
Who doesn't love pasta?
When I make it at home, I'm doing Thomas Keller's French Laundry pasta that I edited. How dare I, right? I think I add an extra tablespoon.
You add your personal touches to it. That's what we do as chefs. We find an inspiration. For you is Thomas Keller's version of something, and then you adapt it or mold it to your style. And as chefs, I think we all, I go back to my whole evolution of food philosophy. Yeah. We all kind of take it and evolve it a certain way, and really that's food. Food is always an evolution. I don't think it's a fusion. It's an evolution.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely.
I mean, with your Filipino background in that food scene and everything like that, and your affinity towards them, like that totally makes sense. I remember you speaking to that. In fact, it's everything's a melting pot. Everyone brings this dish here. Barbacoa is like a German introduction to Mexican culture. You know what I mean? So it's like it's all over the place.
There's a lot of that. So,
for sure.
So you can create. I think you can definitely create more to that, but also keep a nod to the roots of where something might come from.
Yeah, for sure.
That's really cool. What kind of advice would you have for someone who wanted to get into the private chefing
Yeah, I'd say,
side of the realm?
yeah, I'd say right now what it looks like to me, and this may be partial judgment on myself, I think you need to have a significant digital footprint. I think you need to be out there creating content constantly. I do believe a website's really important as well. That's why I'm kind of inching myself, towards there. It's my passion project, I guess, much like this is yours. And I want to see like what it can get me basically. But yeah, I think a strong social media presence and a website and kind of proof of concept, like showing your events, showing how things play out, maybe getting some client feedback and exposing that to folks. Like that's really, I think, how it's done right now. There's also, as I found, just and as you mentioned, there's tons of recruiters. Like just be on Indeed, be on LinkedIn.
Specific recruiter.
Network, yeah.
It's networking. I mean, networking is definitely true. Still to this day, you got to get out there. You got to network. You got to expose yourself. There's so many new media platforms now. Social media, but I really think about spaces. You get involved with online spaces, whether it be X or whatever platforms that you do. I think is relevant as well, especially now.
Yeah.
But networking is so important.
And while that's my advice, I could probably take some of that. I don't know if I'm real great at that. And kind of like the job that I have now, coming into these district schools, speaking to like principals and things like that. There's a whole level of politics that comes into education too.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
It's a good practice for me. And I think on the back end of this, my ability to network is kind of going to grow. So maybe for the time being, I'm definitely learning a lot about K through 12 nutrition at the moment, but my big lessons are happening right now around like the networking and like, communications side, especially as a private chef, man. I feel a little bit of a recluse, like it's just me. It's a one-man show. And I feel like my social skills dip a little bit. Mind you, there is like an entertainment aspect, and I know when I have an audience, and I take advantage of it. You know what I mean? So
definitely getting out there. You gotta get out there and stay, like you said, relevant. Is definitely that, and it's a little work that goes into it as well. So how motivated are you, to do these things, and really exposure and not being afraid? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's all reps. And I think that maybe finding your niche, that's hard to do. I think you actually find it's the whole like motivation has to come first. No, it's like action, then motivation, then inspiration, and then it's cyclical. Most people want that motivation to come first, and unfortunately it just doesn't work that way. Action must happen first.
Yeah.
So by getting these reps, you'll find your niche and then really lean into that. I think that's what I've learned also in my career. I didn't have a niche, and even answering that question, pizza's fun for me, and that's why it's the favorite thing. It's something I share with my grandma, who's no longer with me, and it's something I feel her with me at all times when I'm hands on the dough and working this all out. I'm a child again. You want to talk about nostalgic to bring
takes you back. Yeah, exactly. It
definitely
takes you back, and there's that connection.
Yeah.
I definitely feel you there. I mean, first restaurant I ever worked in I was a pizzaiolo. Following the footsteps of, see this picture here is my grandfather.
That's right.
Tossing some dough. So
Beautiful.
definitely there's that nostalgia and memories that come into cooking for sure.
Yeah. And it's not sexy, man. It's not foam. It's not a nice tight plate, but it's so real. And like, that's what I want to operate in, it's very tactile, and I just love it. I guess I have a great respect for it,
Good.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, well, great conversation. What kind of closing comments do you have?
Nothing, man. I mean, I had alluded to it. Just thank you for having me. It's like I said to you the other day. Just it feels like you're one of these people we could just pick up and start this over. Not talk for the next 7 months and just be like it was. I think that it comes from a level of respect we have for each other. Obviously, how I treat you as my mentor. I mean, I've worked out some pretty big opportunities with you over the last couple of years, especially making little moves that happened or didn't happen in my career. I always use you as a sounding board. So I just
I appreciate
appreciate
it,
that.
yeah.
I feel like I love where we've grown, and I love how I've grown. And then it feels really good for a mentor and someone who I hold in such high regard to have that same love and respect for me. So like, that's an awesome place to be, dude. So thank you. And I
Absolutely.
truly wish you the best, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Same to you. Wish you the best, brother.
Always excited
Cheers.
to see what you're getting into. So this is cool. In fact, I was wondering, I was like, what the fuck is this guy getting into next? And
Always getting
a lot
into
of
new
things,
things.
dude. That's right. Yeah.
So, well, thank you for being part of my new experiment and journey.
Absolutely.
Being, you're the first one coming on as a guest, so I really
Yeah,
appreciate
cool.
it, and much love for you, Big Cat, and I wish you all the best.
You too, brother.
So we're going to close this one out. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Hope you enjoyed Making Beans podcast, and we're going to sign out. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cooking up stories, making dreams. Talking about life, sharing themes. Sip on wisdom, enjoy the ride. Recipes and culture all in stride. Making beans, we break it down. Food and drink on every round. From kitchen tales to heartfelt talks. Spicing up your daily walks. Hospitality, we keep it real. Chefs and brews, they'll make you feel. Every dish, every drink. More than just what's in the sink. Making beans, we break it down. Food and drink on every round. From kitchen tales to heartfelt talks. Spicing up your daily walks. Life is flavorful of zest. Join the table, be our guest. Culture, stories, new cuisine. Every episode like a dream. Ooh, 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 Making beans, we break it down. Food and drink on every round. From kitchen tales to heartfelt talks. Spicing up your daily walks. Life is flavorful of zest. Join the table, be our guest. Culture, stories, new cuisine. Every episode like a dream.